Hey guys, so I've been planning on kind of adapting my home office, basically where I do my editing and stuff, to be more kind of friendly to streaming because I've been doing my Twitch series where I edit stuff on Sundays. I go through my photos and edit them, and whenever I'm doing that, I'm coming in and like setting up a light and everything, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. Like I spend a bunch of time setting it up every single time, and with everything that's going on right now. I know I'm going to be streaming a lot more, so I'm going to kind of bump this project, which I was planning on doing maybe in the summer when I had some free time. I'm just going to do it now because I think in the next several weeks, you guys are going to see me streaming a lot more from here because I'm home, right? So I may as well stream. Can't really, it's not essential for me to go out into Manhattan and interact with a lot of models and stuff right now. So I feel like I'm better off working from home and doing those things. So that's what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is ultimately, when I set this thing up, like I said, I bring in a light and I put it on a C-stand. I have this light here. It's an LED light from Felix with a little softbox. And normally what I do is I take my C-stand, with the boom arm, and I kind of do this to light my face up. That way I'm lit. I mean, there's a light in the corner there, but that does next to nothing. And there's light in the space, but again, if it's dark, it does nothing. So this gives me controlled, constant light that I can use. And I actually set up my Nikon to film, and we'll actually go over that, I guess, at some point too. But this is a pretty cool little light. I mean, it's not super bright, and the softbox is not the best softbox in the world, but it does a good job, and I got it. It's part of a kit that I got, so it works pretty well for me. I'm probably going to replace this softbox eventually with the Shimura, because it'll have a bit of a more dense fabric, and I don't need as much power. A lot of times with these LED lights, they'll give you like kind of a thin fabric softbox because they know that LEDs typically aren't that bright. So I don't need as much power, so I'm going to switch to a better softbox eventually. And what I'm going to do is install this baby plate, right? We did the video of baby plates. I'll put a link to that. I've got this right angle one, and I'm going to basically place it here, which is going to allow me to more or less put the light exactly in the same spot, but then I can just leave it there and then turn it on when I need it instead of bringing the C-stand out every time I'm putting it there. And then it kind of blocks, you can see the doorway here. It kind of blocks the doorway when I put the C-stand. So yeah, I mean, I shouldn't complain. There's people that have a lot worse jobs than I do. But, it's a pain in the butt. What I find in photo and business in general is when you find yourself doing something a lot, that's the time to really buckle down and kind of do it correctly. To do a stream here and there is one thing, but if I'm doing it every week anyways, and then, of course, now I'll be doing it even more. So anyways, I only drive a little tiny car, and I went to Home Depot to get wood. I measured this out first. This is actually 47 inches here. Okay, I guess I should say, because even though the light's not that heavy, I'm not going to just drill the baby plate into the wall because this is drywall. And because I need the light exactly where I need it versus I can find the stud and put it there, right? I want the strongest possible thing. I'm going to put it up. I don't want this thing falling on top of my computer. My hard drives are here. I mean, it's expensive equipment. So I'm not going to take a chance. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a support beam in there. So I've got this, which is actually 6 inches. I measured it this way. So I need at least 6-inch coverage. I need more than 6 inches because you see where the holes are right at the edge there. And I need 47 inches across. So I got an 8-foot piece of lumber. And while I was at Home Depot, I just took the little saw they have there and I cut it in half because I couldn't bring the whole thing in my car because I have a little tiny car. I didn't want to try to precisely cut it when I was there because it's hard to do with the little saw they have. So I just cut this in half basically. I'm going to go outside and cut this to size. And then I'm going to actually come back in and dry fit it. So, but just to show you guys, ultimately it's going to go like here and then another one above it because those two together, you can see just one of them is not enough to give me what I need, right? So those two together are going to form a stronger base for me because I'll screw them in at the beams. And then I can, I'm going to paint this, and I'll install the light. I'll have to move my little pictures, of course. But then I'll give me a light that I can use all the time. And once I get this part set up, this is the main part, then I'm going to figure out a way to kind of get a camera set up more permanently too. I was just putting my tripod over here, but it's not the best angle. I want to get the thing a little closer, so I might get myself a magic arm or something, but that's going to require me going into Adorama to buy one, so I might not do that right away. But we'll do this as this project. So let's get to it. Okay, well, I've lived in this house for a while, and it was built almost 100 years ago, so I know nothing's perfect. So even though I measured 47, I'm going to give myself a little room here, and I'm going to actually go 46 we'll say in 7/8. So we're going to measure that out, 46 and 7/8. Get my T-square here. Now I'm going to cut the side that I cut at Home Depot because clearly that side's not going to be as straight. Yeah, you can actually see. It's not very straight. Okay, perfect. Same thing on the other side, because again, I want 2 equal pieces. Honestly, there's a tiny bit of a gap on either side. It's not going to be a problem. Better that than to be too small and I have to jam it in there. You know, if you want it to look nicer, you could always put a molding on it or caulk it or whatever. So it's not like. Also, the saw is going to eat a little bit of this, so that's why I didn't do like a quarter, let's say. Cool. That gives us our 2 sides. So I've got this here. I'm sliding up and down because I know this is not perfectly straight. I want to make sure that if I decide to put it in a different spot, it's still going to work before I put the saw away. Okay, that's perfect. The other consideration I had was that currently, anyways, I've got, that was loud. I've got this cord here, which is my Ethernet cable. I thought about leaving a space for it, but I don't think that cable's going to stay there very long. I just had it because I was having some issues with the Wi-Fi, which is probably not going to be an issue forever. So I don't want to leave a big gap there that's like 1 inch wide and then find out later I don't need it. So for this, I'm just going to put the cord over it. I don't think it's really a big deal. Okay, so I painted the 2 boards with this kind of off-white. I actually just had this paint around. It's called Sugar Cookie. Even though my molding stuff are this kind of like plain white, I wanted to give a little bit of warmth to make it look a little nicer. And what I did was I pre-drilled a couple holes here with some screws. Now, like I mentioned, I'm in an old house and things are not exactly perfect, unfortunately. So sometimes it's a little tricky here. So hopefully if you're in a newer place or whatever, it might be a little easier for you. But what I've done is I've taken my level and while the desk was still here, I held the light physically in place where I wanted it. And I marked on the wall the center of the baby plate on one side of it. And then I drew a line straight up and down. I don't know how you can see that in pencil because I'm going to erase it later. I need it to be long enough so I can place the baby plate again after, right? The other thing that I did was I went horizontally, again with the level, and made a line. Now I can take my board and hold it up to this line and I'll know that I'm nice and straight. I'm going to put these 2 screws in first as anchors so I can then pre-drill some more holes because I'm going to put several screws in here. It's not holding a lot of weight, but you know, I want this thing to be permanent. So I'm going to put more screws than, you know, you might think. This wall, I use my stud finder and there's absolutely no studs in this wall. I think it's actually plaster behind the drywall. So, you know, you get those like boards. So it's too deep basically for me to reach any stud with any of the screws I have. So I'm actually going to probably put some drywall anchors in here as well. So first we'll set up all the holes and then I'll do that. So here we go. So again, I'm gonna, just to double test and be super efficient, I'm just gonna put this on top. So we'll do multiple things at once here. Get my screw gun. So I'm gonna put the board in place, lined up on this. Like that. I feel like I'm doing like a home improvement show here. I'm gonna drop this on here, make sure it's level. It's like a double check, right? Oops, went too far. It's there. I mean, you could do it without drawing the line first, but I just figured the line just helps me get it in place easier. And then I'm just going to screw these in nice and slow. I pre-drilled them, but I don't want to crack the wood. There we go. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if I just put a bunch of screws in it, it would probably hold, but over time, with weight on it and touching it, it's going to pull out slowly. So I definitely want to add some anchors. So what I'm going to do is pre-drill some more holes so I know where to put the anchors. Then I'm going to pull these 2 off and then redo it here. I'm going to go in about, I know my center line's there, so I don't want to be right behind that because I don't want to interfere with those screws. And again, you could be, depending on how you want to operate here, you could measure all this out. I find that myself not being so perfect, If I measured this all out on the board and drilled it and then measured it on the wall, it inevitably would never line up. So this way I know it's going to line up because I put the holes through it. So even though it's an extra step, you know, kind of putting this up and then taking it down, I think it's going to be worth it for me. Cool. So again, I'm just going to now pull these out. Again, being gentle, I don't want to crack my wood or cause any distress to the wall. Perfect. Ooh, one more. Nice. Cool. Now I got a bunch of holes. Grab my drywall anchors. Now, of course, I pre-drilled the hole in the wood to meet the right size for the screw, but that's not, the drywall anchor requires a bit of a larger hole. So I'm going to end up having to make these holes bigger, you know, because if I try to just, you know, jam this in there, it's going to be very difficult. So instead of killing myself, I'm going to make this hole bigger. Also, guys, even though my monitor is right there, I took my all my hard drives and my computer and stuff out of the room clearly because all this dust. You definitely don't want to be getting all this dust into your hard drives and stuff. So we're going to go like this. Another thing I can do, because the screw's a bit longer, if I want to be extra safe, and I do, is I can actually just bring this through a bit and just line it up that way. Right, same thing on this side. And just put it through. You know, normally for projects like this, I'm gonna like go to the hardware store and get all kinds of new stuff, and I always end up with these boxes of nails and screws and stuff that are extra. That's what I'm using now, because clearly I'm kind of using what I have in the house. So like these are, I'm gonna have to paint these because they're black, you know, so not the ideal situation, but at the same time, sometimes you got to use what you got, right? Okay, now that that's set up, I could paint these first, but I just think because I have everything pulled away now and blah, blah, what I'm gonna do instead is I'm just gonna install a baby plate. So baby plate itself has a bunch of screws, as noted, and I know I'm going to place the center of the baby plate basically in the crack of the two pieces of wood because of how I drew my line, and I'm just going to line it up with this line here. Now you could do it a bunch of different ways. You know, one simple way to do it is to get your T-square and line it up like that. Take your pencil. I mean, I can just eyeball it as well, but that way I'm sure I got it exactly where I want it to go. And of course, with the T-square, I also, and because I know this is level, then I know my plate's going to be straight. For this, I'm going to use self-tapping screws, which I have here. I mean, this has a lot of spots for screws, so I'm not going to have a problem. It's not going to have a problem holding the weight. So. Trickiest part is getting the first one in, then after that it'll be nice and smooth. Cool. Make sure I'm lined up with that line. I'm gonna leave it a tiny bit loose so I can adjust this. Get it exactly where I want it. Which is on that line. Perfect. Once I get this one in, it'll basically be locked in the spot. So I can then tighten this one down. It's just a matter of now going through each one. All right, so I'm going to pull on this. That feels pretty good. You know, I mean, I would not hang off this. It's not going to hold my weight. That's for damn sure. Without going into a stud, these drywall screws maybe hold 50 pounds, 55 pounds. So yeah, if I could pull, I could rip this off the wall, I'm sure. But the weight of my light is not so much that it's going to be a problem. But before I put anything else in place, let me just throw the light on here. Just to make sure everything fits. Cool. So what I did here, guys, kind of show you, is, yeah, that should be good. So I needed it to extend out far enough, right, to light up in front of my desk. It's kind of a funny thing. It's almost coming above me a bit, and that's because of the glare. I can't have it shining in my face. So in order to get enough reach, I had this baby plate, like I said, but it didn't quite reach far enough. So what I actually did here is I've got knuckle and my pin. That gives me more control to turn it and also a little bit more length. Once I get the whole thing in place, I'll show it all again. But basically, that will go like that. I'll be able to, because I have the metal part back here, I'll be able to store the little power pack. This is going to allow me to now have a light in place that I can just use for filming myself whenever I want to do a live stream, which we're going to be doing a lot of in the next few weeks. So yeah, let's get this done. If I were a carpenter and you were a lady, would you marry me anyway? Would you have my baby? Okay, I'm going a little heavy with the paint because I didn't primer this. Oops, of course I dripped down the wall because I'm a terrible painter. It's definitely going to take multiple coats here. By the way, this is this low VOC paint, so I don't have to worry about, you know, inside here choking on this. It actually really is good. All right, so put the cover on there for a minute so it doesn't dry out. Let me get a paper towel. Okay, just cleaning up now. This is in place. It's basically here for whenever I want to broadcast. It's going to be nice and easy. I've got the light coming down. I can just simply reach up and turn it on and off. You know, so clearly I don't want light shining on my face all day long, but I want to be able to light myself nice and neat. And I'm going to end up putting the Nikon here next. I'll kind of position it. I've done it a few different ways. I put it on a tripod, but I'm going to try to put it on a GorillaPod and get it real close to me to see if I can get a little bit more of a nicer background. So we'll work on that now. Okay, so it's been a few days. I've messed around a little bit with a few different solutions, and I found something I really like, both for the camera and the audio. But first, I'm just going to show a little bit more with this lighting. Of course, the light here, you guys have seen. In the back, though, so the back being the back of me, right? I put the exact same fixture, but in an umbrella. I'm using an umbrella here so I get kind of a nice even light across the wall. And also it's working as kind of a separation light for me when I sit down. I had used just the hard light, but the problem with that was I was getting kind of nasty shadows on me and I didn't really want that. We can see I have the computer here, and I've got, of course, my little snowball mic that I often use for this kind of stuff. And I've got an arm so I can just hang it up. Now, insofar as the camera's concerned, which is the main thing here, I got the Nikon Z6, and I built through oddball pieces that I had sitting around this arm. I was gonna just order a magic arm, but I actually had enough little pieces to make it work, so hey, it works for me, and I have it, so it doesn't cost me anything. The other thing I got, though, I ordered is the Camlink 4K, which allows me to use, basically, this is the webcam, which is what I'm doing, right? And another thing I added was this case relay from Tether Tools. This allows me to run the camera on AC power. Okay, so let me show you what we got here. When I sit down here, right, you guys can see me. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm looking at the camera. I've got the computer over here in front of me, and I can work on the computer a bit. You are kind of looking at the side of me, but you know, with the webcam, I could have it right in the center. With a regular camera, the angle was just really awkward. So this is good, I think, because when I'm just talking to you guys, this is great because I can refer back to my computer. If I am doing editing, I might be turned more to the side, but it's better than it was. If anybody's watched those shows I was doing on Twitch, the camera was actually further over, so this is actually a little nicer. I got nice light on me. The background's not black, it just is lit up a little bit, and everything kind of works, for me. So this is going to be great. I'm going to be doing a lot more vlogging, a lot more videos for you guys, so stay tuned. If you have not already, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.